In the city of destruction lived a man of tattered clothes, with a book in hand that told him of the coming of his woes. A heavy burden on his back, a weight of sin and shame. He cried out, "What must I do?" As he felt the judgment flame, Evangelist appeared to him with a finger pointing straight. "Fly from the wrath to come," he said, "to reach the wicket gate." Obstinate and pliable both chased him for a while, but Christian plunged ahead across the dusty soil for miles. He stumbled in the slough of despond, sinking in the gloom, till help reached out and pulled him from that muddy, swampy tomb. He met worldly wise men then, who led him far astray, to the mountain of the law that blocked the narrow, holy way. Evangelist returned to lead him back to truth and light. He reached the wicket gate at last, and knocked with all his might. Goodwill pulled him safely through, away from Beelzebub, and sent him to the interpreter, who showed him grace and love. He saw the fire that wouldn't die, the oil poured from behind. The secrets of the Christian heart were opened to his mind. Then upward to the cross he ran, and oh, the joy to tell! As he reached the sacred timber, his heavy burden fell. It tumbled down the hill and rolled into a sepulchre. The three shining ones appeared, and his soul began to stir. They gave him clothes of white, a mark upon his brow, and a scroll to keep him steady as he made his holy vow. He climbed the hill difficulty, where he lost his precious scroll, but found it back in tears of grief to satisfy his soul. He passed the lions at the gate of Palace Beautiful, where discretion and her sisters proved their hearts were dutiful. They armed him for the coming war with helmet, sword, and shield, to face the dark Apollyon on the coming battlefield. In the valley of humiliation, the dragon blocked his path. Apollyon screamed in fury, and he spewed his fiery wrath. They fought for hours in the dust, till Christian almost failed, but with the sword of God's own word, the Pilgrim then prevailed. Through the shadow of death, he walked where pits and snares are found, where all prayer was his only hope on that terrifying ground. He met a brother, faithful, and they reached the Vanity Fair, where gold and lust and worldly pride were sold in every square. The merchants hated men of truth. They mocked them for their dress. They put them in a cage of iron to mock their righteousness. Faithful was burned at the stake, but a chariot swept him high, while Hopeful joined with Christian under a darker sky. They wandered off the path and fell to giant Despair, who locked them in the dungeon of Doubting Castle there. He beat them for 4 lonely days and told them, "End your life." The darkness felt like heavy chains, a sharp and cutting knife. But Christian remembered the key of promise in his chest. It turned the locks of every door and ended their arrest. They reached the delectable mountains with shepherds kind and wise. They looked through the perspective glass with longing in their eyes. They saw the celestial city gates, though far across the plain, which gave them strength to keep on walking through the sun and rain. They met ignorance and flatterer, and faced the enchanted ground, where sleepiness and drifting hearts are very often found. At last they reached the river of death, without a bridge in sight, a deep and chilling water that filled the soul with fright. Christian began to sink and cry, "The billows go over my head." But Hopeful cried, "Be of good cheer. I feel the bottom, friend." They focused on the Savior King and found the shore of gold, where shining ones received them with a story to be told. The trumpet sounded loud and clear, The city gates swung wide. They walked the streets of shining glass with Jesus by their side. The bells of heaven rang for them, the king said. Enter in to the land of light and glory, where there is no death or sin.